children are humans as well. Is we're at loggerheads at the moment, but how are our children seeing this? What are they thinking of what's going on, and how is it impacting on them? So I'm going to go first to, because I think it's important to understand some of the backgrounds as to why people end up in lone parent families. So why is a woman single or divorced or separated from her husband? There are many reasons. I think I don't know, I want to say that the African community, because that's what I know more of, you're expected to stay in your husband's home, whatever is going on.
Even when he's beating you blue black, stay there.
Exactly, you just stay there. You're married to him. It would work out. Our daddies, our mummies, they pray with us. They pray for us and say, we went through it and we were all right. So it's fine. You go back. So what we're referring to here is domestic abuse. There's a lot of domestic abuse, and people have been, I suppose, being led to stay with it. He's going to change. Things are going to be different. But he doesn't change. And then one day the woman thinks, actually, for the safety of my children and myself, I'm going to leave. And then she becomes a single parent. There are situations where, for example, during COVID, a lot, we had a sort of with family breakdown to do with the economic impacts of domestic of COVID-19. So the husband lost the job or the wife lost the job. They started arguing at home. Things became really difficult. The relationship wasn't going as well as it was previously just because of those financial constraints. So there's a relationship breakdown, then there's a separation in the family. The man becomes either a lone parent or the woman becomes whoever the children go with, and she, either one is parenting alone or they're co-parenting, but just not as well as when they're together in the same home. There's things like a lack of understanding, communication between parents. It's just that they argue all the time. It seems like we just understand each other. There's miscommunication. I meant this, but I said I was okay. When you asked me if I was okay, I said I was all right, but you didn't really ask me.
The main reason behind that.
The main reason behind that, because sometimes, I say that as a woman myself. I say I'm okay, but I'm not really okay. But that I don't want to talk about it at the moment, and it's important to understand each other. But when there's a lack of understanding there, then there's a breakdown in communication anyway. And then somehow separation, somehow you're living apart. There are poorly resolved conflicts as well. So something happens, it's a little thing, but those little things build up. Or the other day I wanted to talk to you and you said you were going to call me back. You didn't call me back. And then when you got home, you were on the phone. And then those things pile up, one thing after another.
Taking each other for granted.
Yeah. 3 days ago you did this, and then yesterday you did this. I'm fed up of it. I'm leaving. So there's those things as well. There's infidelity, of course. It could be from the woman. It could be from the man. There's life stresses every day, like health concerns. Things are coming within our extended family. Our extended family sometimes meddling in our homes and in our marriages. Somehow there's a breakdown. So these are some of the reasons that I've seen or come across anyway as to why, women, men become, lone parents looking after their children on their own. I'm not going to go into the impact of it and how it impacts on the children that we've seen or that I know of. There's the social and economic impacts on children, disadvantages. So if you think about, there are those days, I'm sure, most of us have children, that they say, bring your daddy to school, bring your mommy to school. The social stigma of, Kemi is the only child that never brings a dad. Last year, she didn't bring a dad. And suddenly there's a stigma around, or everybody else is from, a home that has two parents, but suddenly you're that person and you start to feel differently from other people. Again, that the sense, the image that child has of themselves is totally different. And then you have the behavior as well. So some children will not talk about things, but they will act it out. They have that resentment towards either the dad, the mom, or whatever, whichever way that the family is made up of. They have resentment towards the parents to say, what exactly happened? Why did you give up? Why didn't you continue trying? And then there's the trauma that they feel. Sometimes children will say, I hear mom and dad argue a lot. When they start arguing, I just want them to stop. So they carry those adverse childhood experiences and those traumas in their head that when they hear an argument outside, they start to panic because they know from the argument will come, you just hear a slap, you hear mom scream. So those traumas never leave them if it's not addressed properly and they've had support in place in terms of exploring what it is that's happened within their family, how that's impacted on their emotional well-being. And for somebody to acknowledge that actually it's not okay that you went through that. and so for somebody to talk them through it, and for them to have an acknowledgement that this has happened within the family. But we struggle to have those communication and those conversations sometimes with children, and then they hold that trauma with them and they grow up with it. There are many unanswered questions. I've heard children often say things like, well, I don't really know what happened between dad and mum. Or sometimes mum has given her own version of what's happened. Dad has given his own version of what happened. And the children are sort of thinking, who is right here?
Confusion.
Yeah, it then gets to the worst that children start to pick sides. You will have a child that lives with mom, but sees dad over the weekend. Dad will say things to them about their mom. When I was with your mom, this is what she didn't do. Or when I was, and then the children come back and they act out when they get home. They don't listen to mom. Mom gives them rules. They don't respect mom because of the things that the other partner has said to them, about the parent that they're living with. Another big one is, the conflicts that continues to happen, and most of the times to do with contact. So I want to see my children over the weekend. I want the children to live with me 50% of the time. And sometimes they find themselves in a public law proceedings where, they're asking for custody of the child. And then the children are being asked by a social worker, who do you want to live with? How do you feel about mom? And then you have so many agencies working with the children, all because of, the conflict that's happened between the parents and the fact that they're unable to resolve that and come to an agreement of, this is how we're going to co-parent together positively. And all of this continues to impact on the children's well-being. It continues to impact on how they feel about themselves, their sense of self, their identity within their family. And then there's the exposure to violence as well. Oftentimes when there's been some form of abuse in a home, if parents don't act quickly to resolve those or to find support for themselves and for their family and for their children, sometimes some children will move on from that relationship with their parents, growing up into adults, doing the same thing. They repeat the same pattern. So my dad did this. That's how, they were parented themselves. So they're going to parent their own children like that as well. Some children as well, we've heard, will say things like, well, I was told my mom wasn't really a good mom, so I don't want to have children because I think I'm not going to be good at it. So already there's that self-fulfilling prophecy of, I know that my mom, that's happened to my mom. I've been told that I'm like my mom, so nothing much to me. So already mentally, they're already thinking, there's not much to me. I'm going to go through the same experiences as my parents, as my mom. I'm never going to be good enough.
Wow.
So that's already shattering their self-esteem, their confidence, and what they're able to do in the future, and their sense of, no, I'm going to do better. I'm going to achieve better things. And then there's if you think about exposure to violence and how that leads them, and this is quite a big one, and this is something that we're seeing more and more often, that children will look outside of the home. So the social media, the big impact of social media is telling them how to look, what to look like, who to relate with, what to wear. So they're looking for the attention that they're not getting at home. They're looking for it outside. And in looking for it outside, we've had cases where they think they're speaking to another young person who lives in America, who they're going to meet up. The person's coming over for holiday. But it's a 40-year-old man that's grooming them. They've sent pictures out to that man, and it's a grown man that's speaking to them and grooming them, and they've been exposed to abuse, sexual abuse. They've sent images of themselves, and all of these things are going on, and obviously the focus of the parents is no longer on the children, because they've focused on each other and been at loggerheads and not resolving things. And somehow these children are finding other people who are reaching out to them. It may not be a man online, it may be a gang, it may be substance misuse, and how that then goes on to impact on their mental health, in the long term, in the short term, the relationships that they build, the fact that actually the confidence that they have in themselves as well starts to begin to dwindle because they're not the same as their peers, or somebody has told them that they're quite different, your family is different. If you think about the economic impacts as well, so if you have two incomes coming into a home, obviously you're in a much better stead. You can afford, the very basic things of life. Your children are not looking up to other people, to provide them with the needs that they have. If that then reduces to one income, mom or dad isn't able to meet the needs of the children just because the needs are so great and there's only one income in the home. Of course, the child will look into other places. They will be lured into other things to be able to find the support that they need, financial means that they need. and I'll go into, you know, the future aspects would be, say, the relationship that they go on to form. It may be, you know, that in their own head, they're sort of thinking, well, if my parents couldn't do it, I can't do it as well. So
already giving up.
They're already giving up. So mentally, they've set themselves in the place where I can't really do it. There's no can-do attitude. There's no positive attitude in terms of what does a family mean to you? What's a healthy relationship? So to them, well, my dad beat my mom for many years, and she took it until we left to go to university. So it's okay for a man to do that to me. So how are they thinking about that in terms of the relationship they go into? The self-doubt that they have about themselves as well. And when you meet people like that, you sort of you look at them, when you speak to them, the way that they relate with you and how they see things are very, very different, because they'll say, well, you haven't had the experiences that I've had in life. It's okay for you to tell me how to do things, but you haven't been there with me. And it can be quite difficult. So I suppose the mental impacts would be just the confidence that they lose, the relationship that they're able to build, the fact that sometimes some of them resolve to, you know, substance misuse just to go through the difficult time that they're going through. There's a relationship breakdown between whoever is parenting them at the time, poor educational outcomes as well. So because I know we want to focus on the mental impacts, but there are many other sort of areas. And I know you've talked about, you know, it might extend into next week because it's quite a broad topic. I just say it has quite a significant impact on children's mental health and well-being. In the way that they've seen themselves, in their health even. You know, some children, they're in and out of, there's always something wrong, either because, you know, they're not, mom is too busy, she's at work, she's got to earn a living, so things are not being attended to properly. You know, mom isn't able to go to those parents' evenings, so mom doesn't even know what's happening in their education. I'm going to school. Some of them say they're going to school, they never turn up at school. And before mom comes back, they open the letters, and mom doesn't actually find out what exactly is going on with them. So yeah, it can have quite a significant impact on our children, not just mentally, but, you know, in many other areas in their education, their well-being and sense of self as well. Yeah. That's me, really. I've tried to give a brief.
Wow, that's a really a long brief. Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you, but before then, I'm just going to open the platform. From what Sister Turayo has said, is there anyone that wants to add to that or wants to ask her any question on what she has said so far? Any hands up? Anyone at all? Nobody. Okay. So I'm going to come back to Sister Turayo. I'm trying to find that word. There was this big English I read up when I was doing research, which combined the kind of mental health children can have. They can recline to themselves, which you measured as well, that they might not say anything, but they will act it up. And sometimes they may not even act it, they may not say anything, but they are dying silently. And there's this one they called, oh, come on now, what's the word? Where they are shy, anxiety. They develop a lot of anxiety to be among people, groups of people.
Yeah.
You know, so what again are the signs we need to look out for to know if they're beginning to develop such mental health?
I suppose for children, especially really young children, they'll it's just a character change. Sort of they're not the same child that you know. They're either too quiet, they sort of they become quite withdrawn. That's the word. They withdraw from everyone. So if usually you have a meal at the table together, suddenly they're spending a lot more time on their own. They're not socializing as much as they used to. When you ask them if they're okay, they give you yes or no answers. The activities that they used to enjoy, they no longer engage with. They no longer find pleasure in the things that they used to enjoy. Relationships doesn't really mean much to them. So you'd find that there's a sometimes friendship breakdown, as simple as that. School, you know, the friends that they used to get on with suddenly, well, I don't really like her. I don't want to play with her anymore. And it's sort of like almost as though they're taking it out on everyone, but they're withdrawing from all of the relationships that they know and all of the things that they enjoy. And then there's the other side of that, which is the extreme end. They go out more, they reach out to other people, they're making more friends. There's like risk-taking behavior. There's a whole big thing now about like vaping. A lot of young people they're not using a cigarette now. They're vaping, and it's like, oh yeah, it's safe. But they're, you know, socially unacceptable behavior, but that's acceptable to them because at the moment that's what everyone's doing. And I'm just finding a way to get through this. And if that means that I'm in the crowd with everybody else, because, you know, they accept me. I don't think that my dad accepted me or my mom accepted me. That's why she left. So these are the people that are now my family, but are they really truly their family? So there are two ends to it. They're either too quiet, withdraw, or they're on the other end and everybody's their friend. They're taking risk-taking behavior. They're going out even more. They're smoking. They're sort of affiliation with gangs. Yeah. Those are the some of the.
Thank you very much. I've got two comments here which is saying the same thing, that when we talk about single parent, it's not just about a woman. Single parent could be male, it could be female. So we are not narrowing it down to a woman, we're talking about single parents. Okay. And it affects on both sides. Another thing I read somewhere where it was saying about the different type of effect it has. If it was the father that was absent, the effect is more on the male child. Is on both, but the male child feels it more because it has nothing to look up to.
It's that role model, isn't it?
You know, role model to look up to, and then he sees, if he feels an emptiness. Now, it's not that the mom is not doing her best, but no matter what you do, you ain't no man.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just it. And they feel that emptiness, that gap. Sometimes they want to reach out. So even if they are reaching out to somebody who can fill the gap for them, it's still good. But the worst one is when they just give up and they don't want to reach out and they're just like in their cocoon. And that is worst because you don't even know where to start from, how to help them, what to do. And for the past 2 months, we've been looking at being a man, you know, the attributes of being a man and all that. And one of the things that was discussed was when you have issues like that, when you have a male child in the family and there's no father figure, look for a representative, maybe like somebody in the church or in the community that's got that standard, you know, that you can easily say, maybe go spend time with uncle, or uncle like intentionally get involved in your life, just calls you one in a while. Hey, Joshua, what are you doing? Let's go out, you know, and all that. Who can sacrifice that time, you know, even though it's not the same, but it takes a lot of the burden away.
I mean, there are families where, for example, you know, sometimes we have our families where dad lives in another country to mum, or mum lives elsewhere to dad, and, you know, either one's parenting most of the time and dad visits every now and again. There are families set up like that. And, you know, I grew up like that in this country. So my dad was away for a long time. We worked away. And, you know, we grew up, you know, 3 children with my mum doing most of the parenting. And she was always at work. She had 2 jobs because obviously she had to provide for us. But one thing we never lacked was like extended family support. Some of them been related to us. I have, you know, 3 brilliant people that even for my own children have become, you know, grandparents to them, but we're not related in any way. But they were uncles that we came to, my mom worked with, or, you know, people that my dad knew and just always had eyes on us. You know, they would ask us every now and again, what are you up to? Come and see me next weekend. When it was time to apply for university, they were there. They helped us, you know, pick our choices. There was a fantastic teacher at college as well, who just really just had eyes for us and just really supported us. So there are support available, you know, within the community and your extended family and support network. There's the church family, the mosque family. There are people out there who genuinely can support you, because sometimes you have bereavement. Sometimes, you know, your parents has passed away, you know, due to terminal illness or something. And it's not always like conflict that leads to parent becoming alone. parent. There is professional support as well. If you feel, as a single parent, you're struggling, there are agencies that are out there, supporting families. They're youth clubs. I worked as a youth worker years ago. And, some kids will come in and it's just, oh, I have this college application. Can you help me with it, please? I have this phone call. Can you please call tomorrow? Or can you speak to my mom about this? And it's those really simple things that are available.
It's a long way.
It goes a long way and it makes such a huge difference. And without all of these people that I talked about in my life, I don't know where I'd be today. Because I grew up
you are lucky.
Yeah, in an area where, there was a lot of gangs. There was a lot of things happening. But with the support around, it really did help.
Wow, you lucky. Now that's another thing. Now, your parents were not separated.
No.
But then your dad was not there. But you're so lucky to have that community to help you. Now, on a daily basis, things are not getting better if we're going to be honest with each other. And if I want to say, okay, which uncle or which auntie can I even trust my child with now? That's another problem.
Yeah.
I remember there was a seminar like this you anchored, and you're like, I would never leave my child with anyone.
I know, yeah.
You understand?
I've seen.
Do you get? Yeah. So it's getting more difficult. But then if we have families, like you said, who will come around to help, it goes a long way. Oh, I know my sister is in London. My sister is there. She's on her own. I'm here. And I give her a call every now and then. How are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I call the son. I don't need a permission to call my nephew or my cousin. How are you doing? How is your education and all that? Covering that gap.
Yeah.
Goes a long, long, long way. Not when it's too late. And the child is like, I don't need anybody anymore. When I needed everybody, where are they? Then it's difficult for you to reach out or to break through to such a child. Now, thank you so much for that opening. Any question, addition, before I go to my second speaker? Any question for Sister Turayo? And if after the program you want to speak to Sister Turayo for more advice on a one-to-one, let me know. I will get her contact for you. Anybody want to say anything before we move on? In the next 1 minute. And everybody's quiet on me. Sister Edith, what's happening today?
Hello.
Good, thank you. Thank you for responding. God bless you, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Festus Briggs from Nigeria.
Okay.
I came a little bit late, so I'm just trying to understand what you guys are, though the topic is there for me to pick up. So from what you're saying, you're talking about even a single, like a male parenting is also a problem, not only the female single parents. That's the problem. Hello?
It's on the both side. Male parenting, because we, even as a man, you need a woman to nurture your children.
That's correct.
You cannot do the job of a woman. They are two different roles.
Okay.
It's not just a woman.
Initially, I was thinking it's just the lady.
No, it's both single parents, in quotes, male and female.
Okay. All right, that's nice. At least I've come to learn something about that. I never knew. I thought maybe the female side is always a problem. That's what I was thinking.
No. Female side is not always the problem. Now, we have a lot of situations where the custody might even go to the man. The woman might have a mental issue or health issue, or she cannot even hold a job down.
Okay.
So automatically, they were going to give the children to the man. There are other situations. What if the woman died?
Okay.
You have to look after your child. So when we were talking about being a single parent, it's not just because you just woke up one day and you're fed up with the marriage and you want to move on. Different things could happen and make you end up being single. Now, there's two other scenarios. One was what Sister Turayo said, that her parents were still married, but they were living far from each other, which happens so much now, where we have a father in Nigeria, maybe the mother in UK, or daddy is hustling in America, mommy is in Nigeria. Now, already they might be married, but they are single.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense at all.
They are single. They are married, but they are still single.
That's
Because
correct.
you are not really there for your child physically.
That's correct.
You can be sending the money. Yeah, daddy send money, but then where is he? You know, you sending money to them, but the child is still angry. I don't need your money. I want you.
That's correct.
And then you feel, this child is ungrateful. But it's so difficult to create a balance, especially when there is so many financial restraint.
Yeah, I suppose the relationship come in because, like, you know, there are many parents who aren't physically present there, but, you know, they're in close communication. They speak to their children. They call their children school. They're very involved. So it's not just about like providing, you know, the financial support. Yeah, but, you know, they actually have a relationship with the child because there are many parents who are there. They're there every day, but they actually don't know what's going on in their children's lives. What's the point?
That's the second scenario. You married, you're under the same roof.
Yeah.
But you're not really there.
Yeah.
You see that the dad is not really there. So the mommy is doing the daddy, the mommy, the everything up and down. Daddy is just there like a figurehead.
Yeah.
And the children can pick these things up. They know. And they're like, what am I looking up to? You know, so it's a lot. We all need to like up our game. Thank you so much, Turaya. Because of our time, I'm going to call on my beautiful sister, Sister Rachel Adekutujo. Are you ready for me, ma? Sister Rachel?
Hello, I'm ready.
You've got the floor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak about the solutions. Me and you discussed this earlier, and I discussed this with my sister earlier as well.
Your video is off?
Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm having renovations going on, so.
You good.
Okay. So I think Morton Raya spoke about it as well, solutions about single parenting and the effects on children. She spoke about having a mentoring, so like a positive role model. It goes for both children, having a positive role model. So for boys, when the dad is absent, you know, sometimes they would seek that same love that they crave outside. You know, they will probably join a gang, meet people that are, you know, don't have their best interests at heart. And girls would seek that that fatherly love from men that they do not know, and they will probably go into prostitution and just meet bad people and just do the wrong thing. So like they will seek that love outwards, and they will just create problematic behaviors. So one thing they would need to do is to make sure that child has fill that gap that is missing. And that could be mentoring, you know, seeing someone with a good attitude that could fill that gap. Another thing is focusing on building networks. So I think Morton Raya touched on that as well. So like having support there, you know, the mum or the dad won't have all the time in the world for that child. So they'll be trying to work and make money for the child. They won't be at home as much. You can always have a family member, friends, you know, even at school, the teachers, you know, instill some morals into that child that, you know, that is missing. They could also do that. Another thing that is a big issue, especially when parents separate, is the attitudes that they have. And the child can actually see this going on. They don't think they can, but the child actually does. The child can feel and see everything. So the petty behavior, talking bad about the other parent in front of the child, and the child just ends up resenting that parent. I think they should put the child at the forefront, you know, put their mental health first, you know, not yours. I know they'll say your dad is bad, you don't need him, he left us. And they'll say your mom is useless, she puts other men over us, the child is going to grow up resenting, and they're actually going to blame themselves. So for the separation of their family, the separation of their parent, and that will also reduce their self-esteem. So the best thing is to do is to put that child's mental health at the forefront. Think about, how is my separation going to affect this child? How will I make it seem as normal as I can? Especially when the child has already grown up in a nuclear family. And I guess maybe at the age of 8 and upwards, the child and the family then separates. The child is not going to be able to adapt to that change if you don't make things seem as normal as they were before. So you need to make sure everything is normal. Well, I wouldn't say normal, but not too much
acceptable as possible.
Yeah, not too much change. So the child can just, believe that, okay, my life is still going to go on well, even though my parents are separated. But that does not happen. So I think we need to put children's health at the forefront. And also there needs to be more government funding into family therapy, because I think that the government just focuses on the financial side. They will help the parent, with food and housing and stuff. You get the council houses, you get in America, you get the EBT card, what is it? Food stamps and all of that stuff. They only focus on the financial side of things, but family therapy, parenting classes, they exist, but people don't know that. There's not much advertisement. There's not much recommendation.
I don't even know that.
Yeah, there is a lot, but it's not free and it is quite pricey. But there needs to be funding so it can be available to more people, because I think people would really benefit from that. The parents can sit down. The therapist can tell them, this is what's happening to your child. How are you going to change your attitude? How are you going to co-parent better so that the child can exist as normal? Because statistics show that children from single parents families, they exhibit really challenging behaviors compared to those with married families, a family structure. So they are more high risk of many things. So prostitution, drug taking, joining gangs, low self-esteem, suicide. So family therapy is a very good thing to invest into, but it needs to be more available, especially to those from low-income families. And that's another issue. Statistics show that especially single mothers compared to single dads, they're more at risk of struggling financially. So that's another issue. Like Motoraya said, there's so many factors. It's not just mental health, it's socioeconomic status, it's mental health, it's disabilities, it's so many things. It's environmental factors, especially where you live, you're more at risk of certain things. So I think there's just so much that needs to be done in making sure that the child grows up okay. People need to be able to use community resources as well. There's loads of, like Motoraya said, there's youth clubs out there, there's libraries.
This youth club, do they really still exist? Are they functioning?
No, not as much. Unfortunately, they've cut the funding to those. I'm hearing of so many being closed down, and money's been going to other things. So there are charities there that are trying to build funding for these youth clubs, just to make sure the child has somewhere to go. Because as a result,
but now every children now, they're all on the social media. It's either you're on the laptop or you're on the tablet or on the phone.
Because there's not much out there right now. There's not, like back then, me and my sisters, we used to go to youth clubs all the time. My niece now, she does go to youth clubs, but it's not, most of these kids, they're just behind the phone, behind a laptop, or they'll just be doing the wrong thing. And there's not much youth clubs out there. They're always seeking funding from the local authority, but the money is just going elsewhere. But it's one thing that needs to be done, just to make sure that these kids have a place to go. They can channel their anger. These children are angry inside. They're feeling worthless. They're feeling to blame for their parents' relationship breakdown. They need to channel their anger into something else. These children can be talented. They can go into acting, into sports. So many actors that tell you, yeah, my mom was a single mother,
Yeah,
struggled to eat, but I didn't, I was depressed, but then I found my passion and then I did this, and then they grow up and be successful. You know, it's not the end of the world. You can always help these children to navigate their feelings and channel what they're good at, so they can grow up and be, you know, end that cycle, because sometimes it just goes on and on and on. When they grow up, they'll believe, I don't need a wife or a husband because my mom and dad did it. So they'll feel, I'll be all right if I do it. And then it just continues.
Can I cut you quickly and ask, at what point does a child become suicidal? Now, the irony, I'm going to open it a little bit more. There is the two scenario of a child of a single parent who, from college, I don't know what happened, even the teachers couldn't explain it. But what I was told was he just ran himself into the wall. You know, like speed, boom, into the wall and fell. And they had to call an ambulance and all that. And then when they what's happened, what? So I don't know. Were you drunk? No, I don't drink. What happened? He doesn't know. That's one. Now we will say, okay, single parent, blah, 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 blah. There was this other one where there's a female, it's got the daddy, the mommy under the same roof. It's got senior brother, sister, it's got younger one. It's got everything in there, you know. And this happens to be a family I know, not even story now. And she was suicidal. So where is this coming from?
So there is still going to be children in married families being suicidal, but research shows that when a child is in with a child of a single parent, it's much higher. They are much higher risk. That's the issue. Why is there such a higher risk than someone from another a nuclear family? It's because there's so many things. The child has to either become the parent, become that parent. So for example, women love to make their sons the man of the house. I mean, it's controversial because they want that child to fill in that role, and the child is just a child. They need to be children. They can't fill in that gap that their dad couldn't fill, and all that pressure can push someone to the edge. And for example, girls as well, they feel neglected. They feel, why doesn't my dad love me? You know, it causes depression, and depression leads to suicide. They'll have suicidal ideation. It's just multiple factors that can lead to that child being suicidal, and it stems from not having that role model, that person there to console them, to help them, you know, to invest in them, invest in their mental health, you know, be there for them. So it's just many factors. It's not just about nuclear family and then a single parent. It's multiple things that increases the risk.
I'm going to read a comment here from Sister Kemsey. And she said, youth clubs are being closed down because they have become grooming grounds for gangs. Yeah,
it's true. It's a big issue. Youth club is multiple things, yeah.
Wow.
They've now realized that, you know, there's a lot of vulnerable kids, like these gangs, they realized they want to find someone who's vulnerable to join their gang. And they know that a lot of vulnerable kids do go to youth clubs, and they can just easily manipulate them. So it's true, they are grooming grounds for, yeah.
I'll give another scenario from what you said, and Sister Turaya also said it, that don't tell, if you have an issue with your spouse, don't tell your children, which I also buy into that, because you're feeding them with the negative vibes and they're going to run with it. But then I'm going to give you a scenario where you've raised this child practically on your own for good 10 years. And then the daddy just comes into the picture, and then the child is becoming more sympathetic for the dad. Then this child has forgotten all the sacrifices and all the pain, all what you have done. And then you're like, okay, ask your dad to buy you a pair of shoes. You're going to resume school. And it's like, oh, my daddy doesn't have. And then you feel like, what happens to me? I've been buying it for 10 years. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So in situations like that, parents are forced to want to say something that Why are you pitying your dad and not pitying me? So when children, and I don't know where to put them, but situations can make parents talk. But then even in talking, we need to limit and edit what we say to them. We don't want to backlist them.
There's a healthy way to put your thoughts forward. So instead of saying, oh, why are you pitying your dad? Maybe speak to the dad first and see if there's a solution that you can, there's a solution to this, so that child doesn't feel like the dad can't provide, you know. There's enough, instead of, you know, venting to the child is going to feel like they need to solve this issue, but it's between the parents themselves, and then instill those onto the child, instill the solutions, you know, what you've worked out, let the child know that you are working things out, you're co-parenting healthily. I know it's hard. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a single parent, but I can see that, because I've worked with a lot, it's hard because they have that resentment. The mom has that resentment to the father. And when the father does come back, they feel like the child has forgotten all that they've struggled for. But it's best to look positively. Okay, that happened, but now my child has both parents. How can we now focus on how we're gonna get better as a family? You know, how to improve on what was lost. How we're gonna make up for lost time, instead of just having some resentment from what happened in the past. So it's best to just think positively. How are we gonna go on from here?
As a psychologist, how do you deal with anxiety, public anxiety? When one cannot stand in the public, we begin to fidget, which is a mental health I find amongst a lot of youth. How do you help with such situation?
So we would normally refer them to a psychotherapist. Those are the ones who are able to diagnose them, to help them, give them some tips on, and it could be not just therapy, but medication as well to help them deal with that. But it's really bad, because nowadays a lot of children at a young age are being diagnosed with anxiety, and it's really bad because no one's really focusing on their mental health as much. So I think we need to be more conscious of these kids' mental health. I think that's what we need to do, as not just parents, as family, as teachers. We need to spot the signs and early on, because it will only get worse as they get older. I think as everyone needs to work together to limit this and to ensure that it doesn't worsen, because it's just year by year, the kids are getting younger and younger and younger, and having to take medication for such a thing is not it's not good. And seeking therapy is good, but it's not always it doesn't work for everyone. So the best thing to do is target it on early on and spot the signs. And once you spot the signs, you can know how to deal with it, what solutions to have to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now I'm gonna bringing myself into this, being very practical. I've called my son, he's got anxiety, and I didn't notice them on time because I don't have all this information, you know, but I knew, why is he doesn't want to mess with people, he doesn't want to play. But I'm like, what's going on? But if it's just me and him and his brother, we play, we jump, we do everything, we cool. But when it comes to outsiders, he keeps to himself. And it gets to a point when even they try to reach to him, it's like, leave me alone. And when he tells you, leave me alone, 2 times you don't listen, you're going to get a punch. And so I said, did he not warn you? Do you understand? I don't want to play, just let me be. But then, as I didn't stop talking, I didn't know what the problem was. I didn't know what was wrong. But I kept doing motivational talk. I kept getting people involved, you know, even though they're not family, extended people within the community, within the church, we will always call him and talk to him. So that helped a lot. That got him out of the bubble. And then suddenly he started bringing friends home. So I'm like, oh, hey, you know, it's like I won a lottery. Somebody who doesn't want to talk to no one, now he's got friends. Mom, can I bring my friend home? Oh, yes, the door is open. Bring home 1 million. Do you understand? And I helped him. He got out of the that closure, you know. Now that doesn't mean it's over, but it's a step. So it's a good thing that we are able to have such talks like this.
Yeah.
And it's not enough. It's not enough. We need more, especially the community we are from. Now, 1 minute it's gonna be maybe it's some people doing chamo from the father's side or the mother's side. Do you understand? Or it's something diabolical, or the child is just naughty. I'm tired of this child. I can't be bothered about this child. And before you know it, we will lose that child. Just because we are not educated, we don't know. It's not because we intentionally want to abandon them, but we don't know. But then the irony of it is this: while we were growing up, we also had things. We saw things. Our parents were not 24/7 kissing. They had issues where there were times where my mom would report my dad to me, my dad would report my mom to me. There was a time I'm like, 2 of you, leave me alone. Go deal with yourself, you know. But I didn't break down. I didn't have all this emotional thing. So is there any other thing that is bringing this to the surface more and more?
I think it depends on the person personally. So some children have more resilience than others, you know. Some have better coping strategies. They know how to channel this energy that they have, and it depends on personality as well. Some people are more extroverted, so outgoing, they know their personality, they're more social, and some are more introverted. It's a personality thing, and it just depends from child to child. So you can't really predict how it will be. So it just depends on each individual and how they deal with the situation, how they deal with stress, you know, how they deal with loneliness. And it's also biological factors as well. You know, it could be like they could, the attachment that's formed as a child with their parent, you know, it could have an effect on how they deal with things when they get older. You know, with your son not wanting to socialize as much with others, it could be because, you know, he was not used to sharing that, you know, that space. Maybe he's used to having, like, being alone, or he prefers it that way. It just depends. You never know. So you can't really say.
No, thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor. We got like how many minutes? 5 minutes more. Any question to our guest? Sister Rachel is here. Sister Anna is here. Sister Anna, do you want to unmute yourself? Any addition to what we've been talking about?
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Somebody's looking hot.
Thank you. So what I wanted to add first and foremost is to what Mr. Briggs said. And said, are these problems arise only with single mothers, or the same with single fathers? Is it the same with single fathers? And from all the research I've done today and looking at everything, the statistics are showing that the problem lies where the father is missing, and less of a problem for that child when the mother is missing. And they said the reason for this is that fathers are kind of flexible. When they know the mother is not around, they bring out the nurturing nature in them, and they'll also have the discipline nature that they have, you know, to correct the child. Yeah, so it both comes out. And then this study was also done on gay couples, because you all know gay couples do not have a mother. The children don't. So then they did the research and they did the brain scan and everything, and they saw this exact thing, that the nurturing part that's usually with the mother, they now noticed that the father started to develop it.
Wow.
So both the gay couples are now, you know, looking after that child, and the child was having a good upbringing because they had kind of like the best of both worlds in those two parents. So when we looked into this even more, we looked into the biological reason for this, which is what you are asking. You are asking of why mental health. And there's a reason for this. The reason is because children have like hormonal levels, and so do parents as well. They have hormonal levels. So what happens is that the children are impacted greatly by their father in two major stages of their life, which is preschool and teenage years. So during the preschool period, where they haven't started speaking, or they're speaking and they're just learning things, what happens is that the children learn language, a lot more language from their father, how to speak, how to articulate themselves. It's all learned from like the father's part. And what happens is that during the teenage years, the children are more impacted by their father. So the more time they're spending with their father, the more their self-esteem is growing. So even though a mother is showing the same love as a father is showing, the mother's love is not impacting anymore. It was impacting maybe when they were babies or when they were in primary school, but when it gets to that stage of them going into the world, interacting with other people, it's like it's the man that has more of an impact. And so they always say the way to solve this problem within teenagers is if fathers can actually spend more time with their children, especially when they become teenagers, because that is when they have the most impact. So if it's 10 minutes a day that they're spending with their daughters or their sons, it has an impact on them emotionally. It relieves them from depression, because guess what? They feel a sense of importance. I am important. So when you have a sense of importance, you feel less depressed, you feel less anxiety. So that was the biological part of it. They realized from years of study that the more time the child spends with their parents, as teenagers especially, it impacts on them. They have less depression, they suffer less from loneliness, they suffer less from self-esteem as well. This is why you see mothers, when it comes to the part where their children become teenagers, that's when it becomes very difficult. I have 2 teenagers as well, and I can speak from today to tomorrow. It doesn't seem to go through their head, but immediately their dad speaks to them, I just thought it was magic. But until I studied it today, even if I just say, I'm going to call your dad, that's all they need to hear. They will immediately change. I can pick up a stick to beat them, a wire, they don't care. They will just behave the same way. But immediately their dad speaks to them in a calm manner. It's like all the cells in their body just relax. So I was also looking for this, link.
What's going on? What's going wrong?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? What do I need to do right?
Yeah, and we tend to blame ourselves. And this was the link that was, that just sparked it for me. And they also said even toddlers who go into preschool, they're actually more intelligent, when they have both father and mother as well. They're more intelligent and they're more socialized as well. I don't know the reason, but, this was part of the research that they done, so language development, memory, they even said it affects memory. It affects attention and inhibition control. And I think this is where we find, where teenagers, they start to move into a life of crime from that particular age, because they are unable to control themselves from doing, things that they're not supposed to do. So it was linked to the fact that the lack of father training, everything, it caused behavioral problems. And statistics were also showing in the school that 70% of the children who can't behave or have behavioral issues do not have a father at home. So that's a direct link between children, their behavior, their mental health. So right now, what we need the fathers right now to all stand up. We need them to stand up and spend time. It's not even about money. It's not about money.
To be there physically.
They need to be there physically, at least do something, even if it's to just walk the dog together or play in the garden for 10 minutes, play football. Giving that child attention is giving them value. it's increasing their self-esteem. You understand? And also what I wanted to say was that the single mother thing is a lot in the Black community. It's very, very high in the Black community, also in mixed race children as well. And it's very less in white children, and it's even lower in the Asian community.
Why is that? What's up with us?
I'm thinking the problem is the testosterone levels of Black men are very much higher than in any other man from all those sectors.
Yeah.
So the testosterone has a lot to do with, you know, being manly. And sometimes when you have a baby, the testosterone level comes down and you become more caring to that child, you become more sensitive. But I think in Black men, I think it's still very, very high. And they're still always looking for the next woman. A woman cannot go past, they'll be looking, you know? And then from there, these things start happening in the family where they've gotten someone pregnant outside and they have to choose between one, because, you know, nowadays you can't have 2 wives or 3 wives, you have to choose one. So the fact that they have to choose one is the problem.
Yeah, that's suffer.
Black men are finding it hard to just stick with one person.
Wow.
Just because the testosterone levels are very high. And a lot of things Black people do, they like to go into a new environment and be part of that culture. They don't actually stick to their own culture. So Asian people don't do that. Wherever they stick to their culture.
I think,
you know?
Asians, well, in most parts of Asia, they place such a high importance on marriage.
Community, yes.
Yes. So,
yes.
like,
yeah.
Arranged marriage, you know, some children even get disowned for not, you know,
they're very, very tight. Yes.
Divorce is very, very taboo. You know, there's such thing as honor killings. People daughters get killed for leaving their marriage, even though the man is probably abusing them, cheating, or mistreating them. The woman is, you know, feels like she needs to stay in that relationship because she doesn't want to put her parents to shame. And same for the guy, he wouldn't want to leave her because he doesn't want to put his parents to shame. They arranged this marriage. Most of Asia, they have that kind of culture where it's very much taboo to be a single parent. So that's why they have a very low rate of single parents, because it's not something that's normal. However, in the Black community and the white community as well, it's becoming very much normalized. This, I can do it myself. I can raise my child myself. I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. You know, it's compared to the Asian, you know, cult community, it's become very much normalized here. And that's another reason why it's very low there and very high here. Marriage is not really seen as, you know, significant no more as compared to over there. And in the past, you know, we used to put much more
value
on these things. Whereas now, you know,
I can wake up today and just walk out. And that's it. But then we forget who suffers most when we walk out. And I remember even my mom and our parents would say, well, the only reason why I'm still in this marriage is because of my children. Now, we're not asking you to stay in an abusive marriage where you're being beaten blue or black. No. But then if it's not a do or die situation, hang in there, prayerfully, try and work things out. Not just because of you, but more because of the next generation that you have brought to this world. Nobody asked you to bring them to this world. Any last word from Sister Anna?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that it's not only, as you said, it's not only a father that can do these things. Some people get maybe their grandparents to be like a father figure to their children, uncle, you know, as you said, maybe someone from the church. Getting these kind of people to substitute as a father to the children, it also helps because it gives them a sense of importance, which they're so much looking for. And these reduce the suicide rates in children as well. So that's one thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sister Anna. Sister Turayo, are you still there? Do you have one last word? Any question, addition, Sister Turayo?
I suppose one thing that I'd say is just to, you know, to support one another. You know, there's a lot, you know, I think Anna mentioned about like the stigma in our community. So if a woman has chosen to leave a marriage because of one reason or the other, a man's chosen to leave, we're not in their homes. We don't know what's happening in their own private lives. It's just be more understanding, show more empathy, support them, support their children, and just be there for one another, because, you know, with a community, we can definitely do it. Whether children are from lone parent families or, you know, they are from families with both parents present. It's just about the support that we offer to one another.
Thank you very much. I saw your hand up earlier on. Is this Sister Kemsey? Your hand was up earlier on?
Hello, hi, you're right. Yes, it was.
All right.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, no, I was just going to add to what you said. When you said if it's not domestic violence, that women should hang in there for the sake of their kids and the kids' mental health. So I was just going to add to it that sometimes it's not just physical violence. It could be emotional. It could be financial. So if we are meant to hang in there, what about our mental health? Do you understand? I understand the kids' mental health is important, but what about the woman who has to hang in there just to make the kids happy? But we are going through some kind of abuse as well. So what do we do? Like, do we choose the kids or do we choose ourselves? Because if you as a mother, if you're not mentally okay, you are in no right mind to look after your child. So it's a hard decision. You understand? No, it's because you said that pray, and yeah, we can pray, we can do all that, but sometimes we have to face reality. Like I always say, nobody wants to be a single parent, you understand, or lone parenting. And there's another thing I wanted to add is that sometimes you have a husband and wife who are together, but they're not together.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the same house, but you're not cooperating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you saying the kids are going to turn out like someone who is being raised by a single parent? Or what's the outcome of kids like that? Kids who live with two parents and the house is not going fine. There's arguments every day, but we all staying together because of the kids. Like, what outcomes will that kid come? What will be the outcome for that child? Will they come out with the same sense as someone who's lived with two parents? Or will they come out with the outcome that they've had one, a single parent mother being the main breadwinner? So
Thank
that
you
was just
very
what I was
much.
gonna add.
Thank you.
Can I say something about this, please?
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, about what you said about will it still be the same? Well, it just depends how the father treats his children and how the child.
Sister Anna, can I cut you quickly? What Sister Kemsey said now is a different topic entirely, which I've written down. Can we look into that next week as a topic? Because that is broad and we actually need to be realistic about it. Do I choose myself or do I choose my children? Can we do that next week? Yeah, so we all come back, and then because we 10 minutes over time now. So next week, that's what we're looking at. Do I look after myself or my children? Then we can deliberate more. We can look at what do we do? How do we go about it? Is that okay? Does everybody agree? Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sister Kemsey. 5, 6, 7. Okay, game. Thank you very much. Pastor Stephen, I'm going to ask you to come in 1 minute because all we've talked about, it's like what's the word for it now? Is what you've been hammering on for the past 4 weeks, and Pastor Frank has been hammering on. And I'm going to say maybe after we look at the kids, who do we choose? We need to come back to the men again. Men stay at home. The roles of the father in the home. Men, please stay at home. Let your testosterone go. Maybe you go to GP to reduce your testosterone or something. Or, Pastor Stephen is shaking his head. Oh, yeah, speak for 1 minute.
We ain't going to no GP to reduce no testosterone. we hopefully we can find other ways, alternative means. But I can't agree more with everything the ladies have been saying in terms of us men taking our responsibilities, us men standing up, even if you're not with the mother of your child. I think we really do need to change the mindscape of where we are right now.
Mm.
And I think it's forums like this that give rise to that, where we will talk to men. Let's get men talking about, listen, you've all highlighted the fact that let's think about it. The child, even if I don't want to be with the mother, how do I better my child? And I don't know which one of you lovely ladies said it there, that, if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, just to spend that time with that child, let that child know that you care, that you are there for them, and that, it's not a matter, okay, you've fallen out with the mom, but you care about them. I think it's so profound and so necessary. So, I can't overemphasize it. I cannot overemphasize it. Again, you've said the father being there, but not being there. That's a huge topic all on its own, because I know that, I know that, and it's huge. And I think one man at a time, this is my mission. This is my mission. One man at a time. If I can get your mind out of the gutter for 5 minutes, if you can spend 5 minutes with me or with a group of men like me, that we can think about beyond ourselves, like you said, to the next generation, because we're done. We're on our way out. What is the legacy that we're leaving? Hence why you see fathering. That's what I'm about. Okay, we got to change. We got to change the concept.
Amen.
And social media is doing it. You have all those nasty people that are spitting out vitriol. That the one I'm talking about, Kevin Samuels or whatever his name was, talking all this rubbish. We men here now, we need to stand up and counter all that with people like me, people like Pastor Frank, that are there and doing this stuff. There are men that are doing it, and we need to be more vocal.
Thank you very
much, ladies.
Thank you very much, Pastor Stephen. Thank you very much. On a last note, I just want to bring this up. I'm sure maybe one or two people have seen it in the news. I did not pick the name. It was of a father who was in the state, was in prison for a very long time, and the daughter, and then he was doing homework with the daughter even while in prison. He's in prison, but it had impact in the daughter's life. That is mega. So wherever the child goes, she knows I've got a daddy. Even though my daddy is not here, my daddy's got my back. And she will be able to even raise her head high. She's not gonna feel ashamed that my dad is in prison. I've got my dad. No matter where he is, I've got my dad. And that is very, 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 very important. Okay, it's been a wonderful night. I want to believe God that by next year, we're going to have everyone that is here, so that the education, the exposure, the information is not going to be one-sided. We'll be able to develop ourselves more and be able, most importantly, help the next generation and be able to invite more people to join in. And to everyone on Facebook, it's a thank you from me, and for everyone, God bless you really good. And next week, we're going to come again, and we're looking at, do we choose our kids or ourselves? And we all agree on that. So that's what we're doing next week. Sister Kemsey, thank you. Sister Rachel, from who I'm sure you've not had dinner, thank you so much for the time. Thank you, Sister Christine, Moturayo, Sister Tinu, Brother Emeka. Brother Emeka, next week you must have my time. Oh. Thank you all so much, Sister Temi, Sister Ola, Welt, Ajayi, Sister Tayo, and my beautiful Sister Toyin Eyuba, Brother Mike, Ola Olu. Thank you all so much, Sister Faith, Brother Johnson. I hope it's a brother. Brother Johnson,
that's my dad.
Oh, Daddy, God bless you, sir. Thank you for joining, sir. Thank you so much. God bless you, sir. And Brother Briggs from Nigeria, not even minding the data. Thank you so much. God bless you. And Brother Mark of Fairmont. Until we see again next week, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. It's a good night from me. Have a night rest. Love you all.